Well, if you have been around our work that Ken has been doing for 3 decades and that we have been doing together, you have probably heard us talk about Short Track CEO, which is our operating system for mid-market businesses, privately held companies where the owners are typically still in resident. They have 1,000 employees or less. It's a big segment of the market. And if you've heard us talk about that, there are 4 key quadrants that are essential for every business owner that we have to have some level of mastery over. Well, I won't go into all 4 of those now, but one of those boxes is what we call markets. This is how do you take your goods and services and communicate those to the market to make a connection, to make an emotional connection with the people that you're trying to serve, deliver these services to. How are you connecting with them? In our experience in the mid-market space, that tends to be one of the things that we outsource too quickly. Because we're preoccupied and busy with trying to generate revenue, organize our business, gravitate toward operations, do things that are essential, we tend to be more on the utilitarian, tactical side of the aisle. We spend less time trying to clearly define our brand and how it reaches our constituents, not just our customers, but also potential employees, investors, the entirety of the market. So Marketing MO has been a resource that we've utilized with Jim Sager, one of our partners and co-authors. And this last year, we launched our very first brand strategy mastermind. And so we are about 3/4 of the way through that experience. And we have decided, because of the success of that programming experience, we are going to launch another one of those in May. And so we'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I wanted to introduce you to a dear friend that's sitting here to my left, Jamin Jantz. So I met Jamin a couple of years ago. We were members of a similar entrepreneurial association, and really became fast friends. And I began leaning into Jamin for some of this work for our brands, and found him to be incredibly responsive and thorough and thoughtful and trustworthy and capable, really helping me understand and bridge the gap between, or the relationship between, brand strategy, marketing, and sales, and how those things relate together. So I want to introduce you to Jamin today and let him have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about his experience with branding and brand strategy. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Shad.
We have invited Jamin formally to be one of our partners within the Edmondson Berry Group ecosystem to help deliver services within our framework for the Short Track CEO system and Next Level Leadership. So I'm really excited to announce that and introduce him to you all as a resource on our team to help you better reach your market, and also to co-host the Brand Strategy Mastermind coming up in May. So Jamin, again, thanks for being here. Love working with you. Excited about the relationship. We're already doing some good work together with our clients. How did you get into this work, and why does it matter?
Oh,
Tell us a little bit of your background. Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Yep.
It's such a good question. Well, I never thought I would be here specifically, but looking back, it makes a lot of sense. And so a lot of things in life, the path is meandering. But when I look back, I'm like, okay, I see how these things connected. And so when I was in school and thinking about what I wanted to study, I loved telling stories. I loved writing. But being a children's book author didn't seem like a financially smart way to go. And so I studied journalism because I was like, I just want to learn communication. And also didn't really want to be a journalist. But then as I moved out of college and got my first job, I was working at a small creative agency, and we were doing a lot of work with publishers and telling stories and creating illustrations for those stories. And I loved the storytelling aspect of that. But I was also working with a lot of artists that were kind of your stereotypical artist and couldn't manage their lives and couldn't kind of keep on deadline. And so I also discovered that I had a knack for business and just started moving into managing more and taking over operations and finance because it was a small little startup and there was a need for this and no one else really wanted to do it. And so I was like, fine, I'll do it. And so out of that, I had these two loves of like story and building business. And I've always found myself through my career with both of those things as very critical, important things. So that's kind of where that's the long meandering path to launching my agency Houston a couple of years ago after I left the startup I was at, and I'd done some consulting on the independently for a while, and then launched that because one of the things that I really love is working with owners, with founders, with that person who has the most skin in the game, that is like in the trenches doing that hard work. And there's something you said at the beginning about when we think about brand, we often skip to the very end. And then I think that's probably where so much marketing and brand work misses the mark, is because we go with a thing that is like very tactical. It's like, I need a logo, I need some colors, I need a font,
right?
I need to do some
website.
I need a website. Maybe I need some paid marketing, some paid ads, and we go immediately to that tactical thing, and then we start measuring, and we can see incremental success off of that. You can make improvements, but if we haven't started with, to borrow from Simon Sinek, like start with why. We don't know why we exist as a company, then we have no idea whether we're on the mark or not. And so the brand strategy starts with that. We start at the very bullseye of the target, and then you build from there, and everything else that flows out of that then will follow and be aligned with our actual reason for existing as a company.
Yep. So in our work and your work specifically, what are some of the obstacles or some of the challenges our clients face if they have a poorly defined brand strategy or a lack of a brand strategy?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of like current cultural brands that we can look at as like examples. But those may be hard to grasp because they're huge multi-billion or even trillion-dollar companies, and so let's start there, and then we can make that connection. So I think like one that is easy is to look at right now that had a moment last year, I think, was Bud Light, right? In terms of missing the mark, and so they took a current cultural topic and they tried to align with that cultural topic, but where they missed the mark, that was antithetical to the core of their brand. And when I say that, I mean that the value and the meaning that their customers had assigned to their brand, because your customer base,
the emotional bond.
Yeah, they define that.
Right.
And so Bud Light completely missed the mark and paid the price because their customer base revolted when they said that is not aligned with the emotional connection that we have with this brand, and we're no longer going to use it. And then I think another one is Tesla. So Tesla has built this reputation on being a rebel, and with Elon Musk being this lightning pole that is constantly causing all of this chaos and conversation,
disruption.
And so every time that company does something, it creates millions and millions of dollars of free marketing, because Musk is intentionally in many ways and unintentionally in others probably creating chaos. And so, but that is consistent with their brand, and so they're generating buzz, and their customers are rabidly loyal and are constantly selling their product for them
and defending it. Yep.
And so that's a key thing, is that when and this is a term that you've used before, but just be with your brand having an effective and focused and solid brand strategy being a tailwind on your product. So Tesla's fanboys and fangirls are a tailwind. We're constantly selling, constantly promoting, constantly pushing their product, as opposed to having to other automakers that they're competing with having to hammer away at features and benefits to try to convince you that buying some other brand is better, where a Tesla is a Tesla, whether it's a better product or not, it has incredible brand value and people will buy it.
Yeah, and you identify with it, with that identity.
Yeah. So now go back and let's translate that down to a mid-market company where you don't have this worldwide or even maybe a national brand. And so the work to be done there is first to understand your why, and then from that to understand how that makes you different and unique from your competitors. Now, sometimes that means you have to actually carve out a space so that you can be unique, because maybe you're in an industry where it's a commoditized industry and everybody feels like just interchangeable and there's not really a difference. And so that's some of the work that we do at the beginning, some of the early modules, is to, one, understand where you are, and then to see if maybe you need to move into a different space so that you can have a different, unique, differentiated message.
Yeah, so in brand strategy, there are multiple components or modules, and we've touched on some of them. Brand inspiration. What is the why behind the brand? What does it stand for? What does it represent? Brand positioning or competitive advantage. So these are all sections or subsections of brand strategy that help clarify the message. You even touched on a little bit of personas. Who is our audience that we are trying to connect with when we go one to many, and we're trying to connect, as opposed to, we're in sales, we're looking at kind of the one-to-one. What's that conversation look like, which should be built on and consistent with the brand. But when we're going one to many, who are we connecting with? How are we connecting with them? And what is the mind share that we're trying to own? So we've talked, it's not easy work. And most people, myself included, that's not where we start. It's not what we gravitate toward. It's not what it's generally a source of frustration because my marketing efforts aren't necessarily giving me the results I think they should. So we tend to blame the agency versus recognizing, man, it's the brand strategy is what's missing from the message. So talk about the benefit of the mastermind and the modules and how we structure that and how that helps.
Yeah. Like you said, it's hard work.
It really is.
But it's noble work, and I'm doing this for my own agency. It was some of the hardest mind melting work that I've done, but it's so good, and it created, even though I do this work all day long for clients, it created such clarity for how we talk about what we do, how we're different, because agencies are a dime a dozen, and most of them are terrible or ineffective.
Right.
And I get it. So I get that there's a lot of even in my industry, trying to figure out how do we differentiate is really, really challenging. So going through this work, one, I think there's a couple of perspectives here. So one, the work is never done. You do a first pass and then you implement it, but now you have this awesome foundation. And so maybe you come back in 6 months or a year or 2 years and you do another pass, and now you're building on that. You've learned more. Your company has hopefully grown. So that's one, is the dividends pay off and they compound over time. And then I think that one of the other things that I love about the way that we structured this is you're doing it in a cohort setting, right? And so being a founder, being an owner is a lonely journey a lot of the times. And especially the work of, say, the brand and the vision, that sits on your shoulders. And doing it in a cohort setting allows me as an owner to walk alongside other people who are doing the exact same work. I mean, this is perfect, fits your ethos, right? It also allows other people who aren't emotionally invested into my brand to speak into that honestly. Yep. And so it provides a nice, stabilizing perspective that I'm going to be blind towards certain things about my brand because I'm just too close, that you can look at and be like, that does not make sense.
Doesn't resonate. Yeah, doesn't line up.
I don't think that that does not fit your brand. And then I'm like, oh, great. I need to think about that. So that's really powerful. And then the third aspect is when you actually get to the end of this and you're ready to start executing, you can actually work with an agency or a contractor or individual or your internal marketing team in a way that's so much more productive. It's like just pouring rocket fuel onto this process. So instead of where most of us start, which is that I'm going to start executing first and then try to back my way into this in real time. You now have this very deep, thoughtful strategy that you can sit down with someone and they're like, I get it. Now I can help you actually execute and put together a plan for that because I know also where we're going, or I can ask questions that are much more thoughtful and informed than before I ask you and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, we're not trying to replace your agency. We're not trying to replace the designers or the web designers or the people you're using. In fact, I think when a company participates in the brand strategy, to your point, when you're able to hand them this IP, this insight, the heartbeat of your company, all of a sudden now they're empowered to do tremendously better work.
So much better.
And that's really one of the big distinctions that our partner Jim Sager talks about a ton, is that when you're working at a Fortune 500 or 100 level, they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on brand strategy before they move into their marketing. And when you think about the brands that you love, the ones that you emotionally connect with, that's not by accident. That is because they have done a lot of research, a lot of investment in defining who they're targeting, what they care about, and how they can connect with them at an emotional level. So this is really going to oxygenate and hydrate what you're trying to send out into the marketplace so that you can make it a clearer, cleaner, more consistent message. And I said this earlier, across all of your channels.
Yeah.
Because so often we run into people that have, this message on this channel and this message on this channel, and their employees perceive them this way, and their prospective employees and community perceive them another way, and their customers an entirely different way. So how do we get consistency to leverage the power of that brand strategy? And this really creates a platform and space for companies to be able to do that in an organized, kind of structured way.
And confidence that what you are putting out is in line, and not just wondering, like, I hope this is right, or I wonder if this is right, or should we continue doing this?
Or trying to modify your message to be what you think people want it to be. That's the other thing exactly. You're trying to modify it and say, well, how can we appeal to a different group versus saying this is who we are and who we're targeting, and let them be attracted to it. Is a whole nother approach, and frankly, requires far less energy and then ultimately money, because if you're putting dollars behind an ill-defined brand strategy, you're going to waste a lot of money because you're going to put money towards something that doesn't necessarily fit. Or if you outsource it and let somebody else define it, you're going to waste a lot of money that way, and you're not going to be happy with it because it doesn't align with your vision. Yeah. So this is kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal.
It really is a big deal. So we're obviously very passionate about this, and so extremely excited about this offering for the Brand Strategy Mastermind coming up in May. So I guess who should consider this and who would benefit most from it?
Yeah. Whew. Everybody.
Right. Everything has a brand. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that whether you're starting out, this is good work, but I think the people that the founders, the owners, operators that are going to find the most benefit are probably the ones that have been at this for a little bit, and they've got some traction and they've got some scale, because that's also when stuff starts to break, and maybe what you started out with is not quite working. Maybe you've added a product line or a service line, you've expanded into some new markets, and you're starting to see some cracks. Like, this is a perfect opportunity to go back to the basics, do that foundational work, and then build out from there.
So because I think it's important in this conversation, I think, like I said, we get frustrated with the gaps between brand marketing and sales, especially between the sales force and marketing within a company. How would you distinguish between brand strategy, marketing, and sales, and how they all should relate together?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think your brand is ultimately just your story. So the story of your company, and then marketing is telling that story to a particular group of people. And then the sales is integrating that story with that particular customer's individual need or problem in a way that is consistent all the way back to the brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's the beauty of another benefit of a clearly defined brand strategy, is it informs each aspect of the experience, right? That the customer or employees are having.
Yeah.
We're really telling the story of that overall desired experience that we want them to have consistently across the board. So would love to invite you to join us in this next upcoming brand strategy mastermind. We are launching that in May. And if you have any interest, please reach out to us. Let us know whatever questions you have. Would love to talk to you about your participation in it. The strategy, the mastermind will take place over 7 individual cohort sessions. All participants are joining via Zoom, so you can be anywhere in the country to participate with us. And then you get 12 months access to the Marketing MO platform, which gives you access to several hours worth of training for each individual module. You get worksheets that accompany each module. You get the transcript for every module. You also will be a part of a community within your cohort via Slack, where you can share ideas, resources. We're going to host some office hours. You can ask questions, share experiences with one another, so that you really get the benefit of being together in this mastermind group. And then you'd have access to the platform over the course of 12 months, so you can continue to iterate on the work that you're doing, because it's really never done, but you're going to continue to go back and refine it. So excited to do this with you.
Same.
Excited to offer this to you all, and hope that you're able to take full advantage of it.